Drug dealing is to men what prostitution is to women.
What on earth are we on about?
Alright, allow me to explain. Human beings orientate themselves against their surroundings. As a result of this, they pursue status, money and materialistic pleasure as confirmations of their success. In the absence of a legitimate means for an individual to acquire these goals and establish a sense of status and importance, people turn to illegitimate means to satisfy those yearnings. I also just want to point out that it's also quite fascinating to see a wonderful example of the biological differences between men and women presents itself in the expression of these desires. Men will often turn to violence, aggression-based activities like your theft, your muggings, drug dealings, extortion, racketeering, armed robberies, this kind of thing. And women will often turn to sexual, people-orientated activities. So that would be like your modelling, your escort services, your massage, your prostitution, your cam girls, OnlyFans, etc. It's very hard to argue against gender differences when so few men have turned to gigolo and so few women have put on balaclavas and started robbing banks. Now that's not saying there isn't examples of both of them in history, but the examples would be the rarity. But having said all that, prostitution and drug dealing. There are actually more similarities than differences in the lifestyle characteristics of both sexes' chosen pursuits. Let's have a look at these similarities. Self-destructive. That's fairly obvious. Very few people get into drug dealing or prostitution and come out the other side of it in one piece. The lifestyle just demands its pound of flesh from both participants. Heavily influenced by family situations. Fairly self-explanatory. If your daddy was a gangbanger, there's a higher chance you're going to walk the same life. If your mama turned tricks, unfortunately you're more likely to also turn tricks. Heavily influenced by peers. If all the boys around you are selling rock, higher chance you're going to sell rock. All the girls around you turning tricks, higher chance you're going to turn tricks. Heavily influenced by trauma. Very few people will live a quote-unquote normal, steady existence and take up drug dealing or prostitution as a viable activity. Most of the time, the people engaging in these activities have come from deeply dysfunctional and traumatic backgrounds. That leads on quite cleanly to the fact that first encounters often involve coercion or abuse, such as when older people in your neighbourhood force you to sell drugs for them, or abuse by a step-parent or a family member normalises sex for you at a young age, and so you don't realise what's happening to you as abuse. Or then there's also just plain old youthful ignorance. You don't see the consequences that can come from selling a few bags of grass, or from sucking a few dicks on the weekend. A person's just too young to see the far-reaching implications. Money-orientated, of course. Sell drugs, make money. Suck dick, make money. Status-orientated. Certainly evident when you think about drug dealers. Prostitution, you'd say, well, I don't really see the status-orientated in that. But there must be some sense of power having married men swear that they'll throw away their families and their marriages if you just promise to come out of their life and he'll take care of you for the rest of your days. There's got to be some kickback of importance from that interaction. Self-reinforcing activity. Get drugs, get money. Get drugs, get money. Same principle for sex work. Suck dick, make money. Suck dick, make money. Seems like a pretty sweet deal, especially early on. It can be seen as a career or occupation, especially in dire circumstances where there doesn't seem to be any legitimate alternative. Drug dealing or prostitution may seem like the only legitimate means of ever making ends meet. Chasing a media image, glamorization through popular media. Especially true for drug dealing. Their wealth, status and lifestyle is commonly perpetrated through music videos and documentaries. What a young fella wouldn't want to get involved in a piece of the action. The same isn't directly true of prostitution. It's very hard to package up standing on a street corner waiting for random men to drive by and honk the horn at you as some sort of glamorous lifestyle. However, OnlyFans has marketed a glamorized version of women empowerment, and they've sold it to a lot of ordinary women that aren't coming from the traditional backgrounds that commonly we're seeing among streetwalking prostitutes. But they've been fed this narrative that sex work is a legitimate occupation. So there you go. They may enjoy it. Certainly drug dealing's got its fair share of excitement and adventure. There's no doubt that prostitution has too. They may be good at it. People like doing things they're good at. You sell enough bags, you get to know how to get around the police. You meet enough men, you figure out the systems to swindle a little bit more cash out of them. They don't see it as morally wrong. Big farmers sell drugs, so why can't I sell drugs? Yeah, fair, I see it. It's my body, my choice, I'm not hurting anybody. Yeah, fair enough. That's your call. They view the activity as a means to an end, similar to the ones we've touched on already. This activity helps me pay for the stuff I needed to pay for. Fair. It introduces conflict with police. Obviously, both activities are illegal. The po-po no like illegal stuff. Conflict. Introduces conflict with family, whether it's your own family or the family you hope to have. Both lifestyles are pretty incongruent with a normal, stable family life. Socially stigmatized. We all know this. To the non-drug using person, drug dealers are scumbags, and the ordinary man would never marry a prostitute. Both activities heavily stigmatized. They're often engaging out of necessity. A young person growing up in an impoverished area, they see the drug dealers making money, they see the person working in the local Tesco's not making as much money. Hard to argue against selling drugs. The 14-year-old girl who lives with her grandmother, she can see turning tricks as the only way she can pay for what she needs. They believe they're providing a genuine service. People want drugs, I supply them drugs. People want sex, I supply them sex. It can involve a measure of success or respect, similar to getting good at anything. If you get recognised for your efforts, there's a good feeling from that. That also ties in with a self-reinforcing activity. Gives them a sense of authority and autonomy. My corner, my drugs. My body, my choice. Especially with OnlyFans, that's a big thing now, is that part of the narrative is that you can work on your time. You choose when to work, you choose when not to work. Certainly a very attractive prospect. Can come with a sense of popularity. Certainly true of drug dealers. Also true of prostitutes. Probably not for the right reasons though. There's a thrill off it. Selling drugs and dodging police is definitely exciting. And lots of wild, crazy sex with random people. Definitely buzz off that too. Often comes with a belief that it's only temporary, or they plan on stopping / believe that they can stop whenever they want to. That's a classic thing you'll hear from anyone who's engaged in an activity that might be bad for them long term. Ineffective government involvement, which often involves people in supposed authority engaging in the services themselves. It's no secret that government organisations responsible for handling drug dealing have often found a way of profiteering off the industry themselves. Also, politicians, businessmen, lawyers are famous for enjoying cocaine and hookers. The hypocrisy and the contradiction has been well established through various scandals. And here, it may be all they know. People who have been born and raised in these environments, it literally may be the only thing they know. And the fear of leaving it and starting a new project might be terribly daunting for them. It often involves drug use and or addiction. And that addiction then often drives them into the activity itself. They may be numb or ignorant to the risks or consequences. They may internalise the activity as an identity. This is what I do, this is who I am. Again, it may be all they know. It can be very difficult to get out of the lifestyle. This is true of so many bad habits, never mind drug dealing and prostitution. You are a product of the environment you spend most of your time in. If you still live and sleep and have to shop and hang out in the same places that you used to do the other things, how can you ever truly get away from them? Prison or death, they're the two most popular means of retiring from the industry. They're regularly kept in the lifestyle by force. Where there's money and profit, no pimp is going to let one of his hardest working girls go free, and no drug kingpin is going to let one of his lieutenants relax in the Caribbean for the rest of their days. And attempts to leave are often met with violence or death. There's no secret to that. And what about the outcomes? How does the drug dealer versus the prostitute survive after the job? Well, those consequences tend to be pretty similar as well. Prison, murder, death, addictions, violence, robbings, beatings, difficulty finding legitimate employment after leaving the lifestyle, conflict with the police follows on even after they've exited the life. They continue to be stigmatised for the rest of their days, they're rejected by society, family and friends. They often have ongoing mental and physical health problems, depression, anxiety, self-image issues. It lowers their overall life expectancy. There's a lack of and or poor rehabilitation success. It negatively impacts obtaining and maintaining a family, especially of their own, and is in general just an all-round high-risk, high-stress activity. And so you just say, why on earth would anyone willingly subject themselves to an activity with these kind of outcomes? And as a result, we can actually make one final and probably the most profound similarity between these two activities, and that is humans will go to extraordinary lengths and endure deep physical and spiritual pain and suffering in an attempt to satisfy a yearning to be just loved and accepted. What this means is that, in effect, the drug dealer and the prostitute is a little different from ourselves, and if not for chance of pure happenstance, if we had been born into the same environment as they were, the odds are we too would have turned to whatever means necessary we had around us to survive. So when society condemns those that transgress our fragile morality, we should remember the small child the person used to be, hurt and alone and crying out for comfort, but no comfort was forthcoming. And when the opportunity came for them to try and make something of themselves, they reached out and latched onto the first thing that felt real. And if there was no support available to them, the first thing they find may not be what's best for them. But there shines the light on the path society must take to recover our lost children. What children crave most is not expensive toys or fancy clothes. They don't care if they're dropped at their friend's house in a BMW or public bus. What children want most is what all humans want, and that's love and acceptance. And who best to provide that to them at their most crucial stage than the parents of the child? The greatest cause of antisocial behaviour in boys and girls is not ADHD or ADD or phone usage or social pressures, but separated parents and broken homes. This isn't moralising or pointing an angry finger at people whose marriages have broken down. It's just an honest recognition that the absence of one or both parents results in an aching disharmony in the soul of the child. Tormented by feelings of guilt and shame, they turn to less favourable avenues of expression that often lead them to further trauma, searching for but never realising that what they crave most is stability and reassurance that it's all going to be okay.